So, in the last video, I had put the tractor back together after replacing the clutch, and then fiddled with the gears and got it to where the gears were not stuck anymore, but the tractor wouldn't start. So I'm going to walk through all the things I did and then just reveal how I actually caused it to not start and then fix it. Well, before I split the tractor, I replaced a couple parts, including the intake and exhaust manifold, and the elbow, and the muffler, and I've gone ahead and put on my C-pipe now. And because the intake was actually cracked right there, and it was really loud. When I could not start the tractor, I bought a carb refit kit and completely redid the carb. I eventually couldn't get the tractor started, and the starter eventually died, so I completely replaced the starter. The company that I took the starter to for rebuilding said it was cheaper just to get a new one, and it turned out it was. I had already cleaned out the air cleaner, so I knew the air coming in would be fine, although when I would go to hit the start button, I wouldn't feel much vacuum on here, and that was kind of strange. So that's what I did on this side. Over here, I've removed my hydraulic pump because I need to replace a gasket. It's not working right. But I had replaced the coil with a 12-volt coil that did not require an external resistor. I tried to replace the spark plug wires. That didn't end up having any bearing on it. One thing I did not have was underneath the rotor, there's a little tiny metal clip that helps tighten the rotor onto the distributor shaft. So I replaced the rotor clip. I also replaced the point system that's underneath there. I had been told that that might be an issue. I gapped it properly, and the cap looks pretty new, but it's fine. It's the right one, and that's pretty much it. I had not done much over here. But regardless of what I did, it wouldn't start. It would just rotate, and the battery would get eaten up trying to rotate the thing. And after I replaced the starter, it started rotating really fast. And the starter was actually making a huge difference, but it still wouldn't catch. Now I've got a fuel valve up here, right up there, but that's not the problem. So I cleared out the lines and tried to make sure there was no issue in the tank. I drained as much of the tank as possible, and then, I tipped the tank up to see if any dirt would fall to the end, and nothing came out really. It was just fine. So I, blew air through the whole. I disconnected this pipe from the bottom of the tank all the way down, and then blew air through it, and the thing worked just fine. Now, one of the things I had been told was to check the fluid. Check the fuel as it passed down here. So I disconnected the fuel line from the carb, and then showed the fuel would come right through into a container and seemed to flow just fine. And then I reconnected it to the carb, and then opened the drain plug on the bottom of the carb and did it that way. And it was strange. It did not seem like it was flowing very well. It actually made a forked flow as opposed to a single point. And I thought maybe the carb float was bad, but I'd already done the whole thing. The float seemed to be fine, didn't have any holes in it. It had a little tiny dent, but the whole carb seemed like it was working just great. So, especially after the rebuild. So the fuel did flow. It didn't stop in there. There wasn't an obstruction. So as far as I was concerned, fuel was good. And because of what I replaced on the other side there, I could tell that the spark was good. So I eventually came back and took the intake manifold back off and found that there was a little clip in the way. So I'm holding a light on here so you can see that there's a little clip right in there, right there, that holds the throttle linkage up. And that clip goes up and attaches to one of the bolts that holds the intake on. Unfortunately, I had put the clip in between the intake manifold and the engine, which as a result destroyed the air flow and vacuum. So in other words, when I would start the tractor, the engine would be sucking in outside air faster than it would suck in fueled air from the carb. So pulled that clip out, put the bolt on, and now it starts up just fine. Check it out. Alright, so I've got my fuel valve in the open position over there, right up there. Got my switch on, got my battery connected, throttle about midway. Midway, up and down. And I'll punch my clutch right there. Yeah, I do too.